Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the 14th Shaded Pixels podcast. I am one of your lovely hosts, Shawn Richards, aka Little Big Ham, and right above me on one of these sides is going to be BJ Brown, aka Bunny 3000. Looking very confused there.
Is that confused, or is that just horribly society proof?
Yeah, that it's one of the above. Aside from being, professional looking, that's what I am not right now. Hello, audience that can and cannot see me.
Words are hard.
All right. And to the side of him is Esteban Sky Cuevas, aka Hey Killwind.
Hi, I can make good faces too, and wave like broken hand. I don't know why we're doing this. Let's just move on.
All right,
Do
guys.
it. You can do it.
All right. And the one great thing I love about this podcast is I'm a white guy. These other two lovely gentlemen are not entirely white guys.
Not quite. No.
As far as I know, I'm not at all. So.
As far as I know, no.
So would you say, gentlemen, that we are a diverse cast and we talk about video games?
We're more diverse than most.
Yeah.
So on this week's episode of the Shaded Pixels podcast, where we break down video game topics to their shadings and their pixels, because I never forgot that intro one bit.
Of course not. We never do that.
Never.
Yeah.
All right. The one topic we are breaking down today is diversity. Most importantly, as it comes to Battlefield 4. Esteban, why don't you give us the lowdown on that?
Okay. Well, as I understand it, the controversy with Battlefield 5 is great name, by the way. Is
Yeah, very original, right?
Yeah.
We went from Battlefield 1 to Battlefield 5. Way to go, guys.
yeah. And what's even worse, we went to 1 to 2 to 2149 or something like that.
It was like 19. It was 1942, then Battlefield 2, then Battlefield 3,
Yeah.
then Battlefield 4, then Battlefield Hardline, then Battlefield 1, then Battlefield 5.
Yeah. So
Something like that.
anytime anyone tells you, hey, you know what, these companies, they know what they're doing, just remember that they don't even know how to count. So
This is true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Xbox 360, Xbox One. But anyway, so the controversy with Battlefield 5 is it's been kind of like not really announced, but just made aware to shareholders that the pre-order numbers for we forgot to do a thing.
A thing. What thing we forget?
You might have seen it right now, but I'm just gonna plow through it. We'll just use the time that we have right now real quick. Damn it.
Okay. Ha.
Knew there was something I forgot. Okay, well anyway, but going forward, it's been made aware of shareholders that the pre-order numbers for Battlefield 5 are actually kind of soft, and they weren't what they were expecting.
And soft as in like 85% softer than expected.
Yeah. So it's a significant amount. And part of the controversy comes from why that is. Now, the internet's the internet, so there's some speculating that maybe EA is actually just allowing this game to just go out there and die, which is the less interesting of the two theories. The other theory is that it is because of one of the campaigns being led by a woman.
A woman with a basically metal arm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So everyone's crying out, "Oh no, that's not how it was. It's historical inaccuracies and
Because I was there.
yeah." I remember berries,
That's right.
but that's
So-
not actually the case.
yeah. So pre-orders are soft and diversity is to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually blame Red Dead Redemption, but that's a different story.
What? No, what? Uber popular games coming out around that time means that people might pass up on this game for other games, and that may be why the pre-orders are soft, or maybe
I
people
think
are
so.
getting sick of the bullshit that is pre-order culture. What?
Or maybe it is that people are just tired of EA's bullshit from last year, and this is them feeling the effects of it.
No, honestly, all I think it is that people aren't necessarily thrilled about the theme for this Battlefield, considering that we already had Battlefield 1 and all they're doing is Battlefield 2. And, other games recently have gone around that theme. So, they're like, we've done this before. This isn't exciting. And what you've shown us with Battlefront has not been too great. So, they've been kind of like, nah, this isn't exciting. So I think that's all it really is. There isn't much to be excited about in terms of what they've announced for Battlefield 5 compared to a lot of the other buzzworthy games that are coming out around in the same time frame. So I think a lot more people are like, you know what? I'm going to wait and see. So rather than do the actual pre-order, because kind of like Sean said, they've already been bit by the whole Battlefront thing. Battlefront 2 things are like, you know what? I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah. I said that, but okay. I also want to ask, going back to actually our last episode, what are the collector's editions and all that kind of stuff, pre-order bonuses like for Battlefield 5?
Oh, I think it was like, I think we actually said it. It was like a bag or a patch and a bag or something weird.
It was like early access to the beta too.
Yeah, it was a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything like major, like a statue or like a?
Oh yeah. There's a statue. It's like 14-inch statue. Oh, no. I'm sorry. That was Battlefield 1. I take that back. Let me take a look and see. Because if I had the money, I would get it. Deluxe edition, a lot of digital stuff, blah 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 blah, standard blah. It doesn't look like they have a collector's addiction. All I see is a standard and a deluxe right now.
So they don't really have too much for it. They're not going all crazy like companies usually do.
It doesn't look like it.
Maybe there's something else to it. Maybe there's there's nothing really to, incentivize me to pay the money early.
Because they, also they don't have, I think this was what another thing they were banking on that would garner interest. They aren't going to have DLC packs for this one either. So they were hoping that would entice people as well.
Yeah, they're doing they're doing basically free DLC updates instead of actual DLC.
Wow.
But we all know that's not it. We all know that's not it. It's because they have a woman on the cover. And a woman is a protagonist in, like Esteban said, one of the main campaigns.
Yeah.
Actually, for doing research on the thumbnail for this episode, I went through the screenshots that Battlefield has on their website right now. Mm-hmm. And of the actual screenshots, I couldn't find any females on there. I could just see men. And the only thing that they have was the thing that they show off on their website, like the wallpaper with the woman there with the mechanical hand and everything. But no, there's one woman in it, historically inaccurate.
That's not true either, though.
Yeah.
The interwebs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe it is time we take a small little break.
You know what? Let me propose something. Let me propose something because we screwed up. Okay, we screwed up. So I say we don't take a break. What we do instead is we just quickly do the swap and just let them see it. And that's our punishment for not doing this earlier.
Hey, I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get some behind-the-scenes action today.
Yeah, because we've been talking for like 7 minutes or something like that.
That's right. Y'all need a break from listening to me talk for 7 minutes. That's right.
We need a break from BJ's glory right now.
That's right. Calm down, people. Calm down. It'll be okay. We'll be right back in 2 seconds.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and just like that.
Whoa.
I don't know what BJ is doing. He's trying to snort his microphone.
Hey, that's what I do to get ready for every podcast, okay? Don't mess with the process, all right?
Yes,
they wanted it behind the scenes. They got behind the scenes.
I guess they did.
For better or for worse. Deal with it, people.
Okay, well, there you go. See, we're back. That wasn't so hard, right? You saw a big version of my face, then you saw a split picture of me and BJ's face, and then we were back to normal. Except for, the whole snorting of the microphone thing.
That's right. Tell your friends about me.
Okay, so the Battlefield controversy thing, it brings up diversity. I like diversity in games. I don't know what to say. Oh, okay, you know what? Okay, how about this? I've been talking sort of a lot about Tekken 7. One of the characters in that game, Miguel, is currently my main. One, because I like how he plays, but one, to be honest with you, the reason why I was drawn to him in the first place is he has my hair. And I've never seen a video game character have hair like mine.
There you go. It's the little things that count. I know there are a couple of YouTubers that I came across, and I think it was even because of a Kotaku article where this one girl that had what's the name of that disease where the person's skin is kind of blotchy, like part of it is melanated and the other part of it is kind of white and splotchy or whatever. Is that
I can't tell you.
I forget what it's called. Is it like melanoma or something weird like that?
That's cancer.
No, I'm sorry, that's not what it was. Man, I cannot remember it, but all I know is that for the same reason that you're talking about, Esteban, she basically loved playing the Sims games. So she went in and she created her own mod that gave the Sims hair like hers, as well as different hairstyles that were closer to hers, and just closer to African Americans anyways, and skin tone like hers that had, like the blotchy, part white, part, melanated in different areas. And I swear I'm going to have to look that up to figure out what it is that you guys know. But she went in and did that and made that mod, and it I don't want to say caught fire, but there were a lot of people that appreciated the effort that she put into it and got that mod as well, so that their Sims could look more like them and their friends and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
there's something to be said about diversity, and it's interesting. We talk about just mainly because in the last, I want to say, ever since Obama's presidency or whatever, there's always been an interesting push in a lot of different industries to become more diverse and show the benefits of diversity. So there's been different, whether it's been protests, whether it's actually been concentrated initiatives by different groups, whether it's been social media efforts, kind of like the I need diverse games or I need diverse comics movements or I need diverse books movements, those different hashtags. I remember when those caught fire years ago. It just in terms of trying to push and tell the powers that be, the people that basically hold the money and the power, that if you invest in this and if you do this, that you will see more growth, and that there's importance in that. And in part, in my opinion, I think a part of that, or part of all of those movements, were because of Obama's presidency. Just seeing him, because a lot of people, and I get this a lot from whether it's liberals, conservatives, whatever, what have you. Just a lot of black people have been divided about his presidency in general, because some of them would always complain and say, oh, Obama did not do enough for the black community or whatever when he was in office. And a lot of times I would like shake my head at them and talk to them and be like, okay, you guys need to think about what the position of being the United States president is really all about. It's not about singling out one group and doing stuff for that group. It's about doing stuff for the entire country that benefits everybody, and implementing things that benefits everyone in this country, not one little small section or group or whatever, and making things fair for them all. And just the mere fact that he became president was something that showed a lot of people, a lot of kids, and the rest of the world basically that it was possible. It was representation. That was like the whole basis behind the power of representation, because from that point on, this generation that's growing up now, all they knew was Obama as a president. So in their mind, of course it's possible. All doors are open. Anything is possible. Whereas like our generation, who've known Reagan and Bush and Clinton and everything, a lot of, and even those older than us never would have thought that something like that would happen in their lifetime. So to see it happen was kind of a shock. And it was a welcome shock, but it was still a shock. So, that was like the prime example of how diversity affects, just from the mere point of it being there, not even like the quality, exactly what was done or, any of that kind of thing. Just the fact that it happened, the fact that you have a first is a big thing when it comes to diversity, which is a part of why in movies, video games, all kinds of things, representation of the diverse makeup of this country is so important. It just is. It really is.
And also to show off the diversity, or sometimes even the lack of diversity in other cultures, in other countries, so we are able to see that represented here in America, or they can see that in other places as well. I wonder how someplace like India, I don't know if they got the game or not, but if they were to see something like Grand Theft Auto 5 and the different amount of people that are in those games, because it represents, Los Angeles and all the inner cities within there. It's really like Los Angeles County, and then also a bit of San Bernardino County. Spoiler alert, in that game where Trevor is in the deserts and all that stuff, that's 100% where I live right now. It's based on where I live right now.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
It's funny because it's not entirely an accurate representation, because there's like four,
but it's an exploited representation. Yeah, they kind of sensationalized it.
It's sort of, yeah, like because there's like 4 cities like where I am, where you know how like kind of like in big areas, there's like certain areas are kind of broken off into chunks,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sort of like, oh well, this is that area, and there's like 4 to 5 cities or something that's like together, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Where I am, there's something like that. There's Victorville, there's Hesperia, there's Apple Valley, and there's Barstow.
Mm-hmm.
Victorville is I would argue, the most expensive one of them, and it's the one that has the mall and it has all the stuff and everything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Barstow is like the cheapest one, and it has barely any buildings in there, and it's got a lot of places where there's a lot of space in between the different houses because it's not as developed as the other ones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Grand Theft Auto 5 absolutely just looked at Barstow and said, that's the whole area.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But at the same time, so you can make the argument, well, it's not really that well done. And I would argue you're kind of right. It nailed Barstow. Actually, Barstow looks exactly like that. But
Man.
But for the area as a whole, no, because like where I live in of those 4 cities, I live in Hesperia, and there's more stuff out here. I'm looking outside my window. There's trees. On our lot alone, we have like 10 of 14
10 trees. Oh wow.
Yeah. And they're all kind of different kinds. Like there's one that's kind of like a Joshua tree, and then there's one that's your more like typical tree and everything. But there's also a bunch of sand. And there's not like I look outside and it's like, oh, it's like almost a quarter of a mile before I see another house. No, there's one right across the street. You know,
Right.
there's like people there, and you know,
Yep.
so it's more developed than that in Barstow, and there's no trailer parks anywhere near me. So
Right.
so you could say that I didn't do it that well, but at the same time, it's also kind of cool to like play that game and be like, oh, I know exactly where this is, even though
Or where this is supposed to be or represent, that kind of thing. Right?
and this is where it's supposed to be and everything. Like even when you go into like the Los Angeles part, it's like, oh, this is supposed to be South Central. It's like, okay, South Central is a little bigger than this.
Right. It's a bit bigger than that. Yeah, but yeah.
But it's still like, oh, that's still pretty accurate. Same thing with LA Noire. I can go drive around like, this is actually accurate. And like one of the streets that I grew up on as a kid, because I didn't grow up where I am right now, but where I grew up as a kid when I was living in Los Angeles is in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, this is really cool, because I remember driving in there and like, oh, I can go there, and that's where the tar pits are, and that's where the train station is, exactly where it is. There's some things that are missing.
Rockstar is notorious for that. Yeah, they put a lot of research and a lot of time into doing that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
They just didn't get the rights to Felipe's, which is a sandwich shop there, and it's really good, and it's right across the street from the train station, but it's not in the game.
Did they like rename it as some other restaurant, or was it just?
I think they just didn't have anything there,
or just nothing there. Yeah, they didn't want it. They wanted to make certain that they didn't get sued, so they just were like, you know what? We'll leave it completely out. We're not gonna.
Yeah, I think it's just like some building. You never go in there or anything, but
right.
But it's cool to be able to see all that, and that's a draw. That's a draw. As a matter of fact, one of the things with Rockstar is, in case anyone hasn't noticed, at like the early 2010s, Rockstar just had like this fascination with California, like Southern California.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like 4 out of the 5 games that they released during that time were all in Southern California. Red Dead Redemption, Midnight Club Los Angeles.
I mean, that's where they're based out of, right? They're based in the.
No, they're based in Texas, I think.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like the main headquarters, yeah. But I mean, they got studios all over all over the world. You know, they got Vancouver and San Diego and.
It's just like how
Shanghai.
Ubisoft is mostly a French company, but it has different branches in different countries as well.
Yeah, maybe their main studio that was working on it is mainly in California or something. Maybe that's what it was.
I know there was a studio that was that's from California that was working on one of those games. I think San Diego was the one working on Red Dead Redemption.
Okay,
but I know Grand Theft Auto 5 is made by Rockstar North, and they are not in California. I know that for sure.
Right.
But that's a draw with these games. It's like you see something that you know and you identify with. And you're like, oh, I know this place. I grew up mostly in Los Angeles, so I know this kind of stuff. And even in something where like I can't recognize it because it's way too far back, like Red Dead Redemption. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Even still, it could be like, well, that's not that off from some of the stuff. Like in Red Dead Redemption, there's a part of the land when you first start off where there's this big mountain that you have to kind of go up on, and then you go on to the little stuff. That's how you get to the area where I get here from Los Angeles. It's called
Which is probably intentional.
It's called the Cajon Pass, and obviously now it's nothing but freeways.
Right.
But big mountain, you have to kind of go past it in order to get to the other part, and then the other part it has a higher elevation, just like in the game. That's exactly how it gets here. So I'm like, that's really interesting. Even though it looks nothing like I remember it, I can kind of see it just from the way that the
geographic stuff. Yeah.
So I identify with that, having grown up in Southern California, and I know this is sort of straddling the line of diversity, but the point is though is that the representation of the world is appealing to me.
Yeah.
And seeing that, being like, I know this, and it's in a video game, that makes me interested to see how they interpreted it, how they can show it off. And even if they get it a little wrong, like I said with Grand Theft Auto 5, and you basically just showed Barstow, it's still really good, because even still, I'm like, well, I know Barstow. I can kind of drive around and see this place.
Yeah.
So it's cool for that reason.
Yeah.
It's important to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of another thing. I like work at a technical company, an engineering company that's like really diverse. We've got a number of engineers from the Philippines, from China, from Korea. We've got a few Indian engineers, and we just have a lot of people, and a lot of them are immigrants. So they speak multiple languages, that kind of thing. So a lot of times when I get a chance to work closely with them, it's interesting when we start talking about where we used to work, and a lot of times we go from where we used to work to just talking about differences in culture. And in particular, I had one of my supervisors. I want to say I can't remember if he was Colombian or not. He was from somewhere in Central America. And we got kind of close because he was still kind of learning the lingo, learning the language a bit, but he spoke English pretty well. Yeah. But of course, there's nuances to the English language, especially with American English, I guess you call it, right? So a lot of times people would say stuff and it would confuse him. So he would, after the meeting was over, he'd come back to me and he asked me, well, where does that come from? What did he mean when he said that kind of thing, right? And, so I get into those kind of cultural discussions with them. And a lot of times, a lot of them will reference movies that they've seen, or, music that they've listened to, or something like that, as not necessarily the basis, but where they got their frame of reference for how they imagined America would be, or how they imagined Black people would be, or, different cultures in America would be, right? And, a lot of times they'll say, oh, like one of my favorite comedians, Trevor Noah, he's South African. And a big part of his early comedy talks about how, all he ever wanted to be when he was growing up in South African was African American, because he saw all the movies, he listened to hip hop and everything, and he saw how much pride and everything, and he was always excited about it. And yet when he got here and he started doing his comedy here, he recognized that a lot of the jokes and a lot of the stuff that he had that dealt with the difference in South African culture and African American culture were based off of pretty negative stereotypes. So a lot of times he would go to places like in the Deep South or something like that. And, people would come up to him after the show and they were like, dude, I loved your show. It was very funny, da 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 da. But you might want to think twice about this, and this, because it really meant this. This isn't true. This is a stereotype. It comes from, some pretty dark parts of America's history. And he took that to heart. But, a big part of it was he recognized that a lot of that stuff was because of how, whether it was black people or any other kind of ethnicity in America, in Hollywood films, that's how they were represented.
Yeah.
Or in a lot of the popular music that was being siphoned out to the rest of the world, that was the imagery that they portrayed or what they talked about or whatever. So they based all of their impression on how black people or any other kind of people off of fictitious material for the most part,
Yeah.
Which is another reason why it's important, because even people here in America do that. Mm-hmm. I've worked in a place up in upstate New York where I was maybe one of only a handful of black people that had ever worked in that area before. And lo and behold, there were different parts of, just my culture being from North Carolina that they were curious about, that they would ask me about. And a lot of those stereotypes were taken from movies they had seen. Again, the same thing, movies they had seen, music they had heard or whatever. And it's all, and which is another big reason why it's important to see people of all races and creeds and colors and sexual orientations in different situations, not just as the stereotypical one that they think is what, truly represents that group or something like that. Not all black people grow up from poverty. Not all Native American people are alcoholics. Not all Mexican people are rapists and murderers and all this other kind of stuff.
That's a new stereotype.
Right. Yeah, that's a new stereotype. But I mean, they still think that a lot of them are from in gangs or something like that kind of thing. It's important to show different aspects of everybody's culture, because there's truth to it, even in other countries. You've got all different kinds of things that can be represented in all these different forms of media. And that's important so that those stereotypes don't linger and don't define how you interact with somebody when you first encounter or get to know, that kind of thing. Very important.
Different people are going to experience different things because of where they're at. For example, while you were saying that stuff, BJ, right now, I think I just had a little bit of a small earthquake.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
Awesome.
Moment right now, if you saw me going like that was because all of a sudden my couch just went like and went like.
Nice.
But then it stopped. So it was just a small one.
Nice. That's awesome. So eventually you're going to end up like 5 feet to the other side of the microphone, and the microphone is just going to stay right there in the middle of the podcast. This is
Wait,
awesome.
Why is the earthquake moving the couch but not my microphone?
Because I wanted to, just for like sensationalism's sake. That would be awesome. Just kind of just move you in the microphone, just kind of go.
It's a very localized earthquake.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Very inaccurate and very, very fictional representation of an earthquake. Yes. Stereotypical representation of an earthquake.
Well, I don't know why that happened, but I think everything's fine. Luckily, where I live, everything's fine. Luckily, where I live, we're not underneath a fault line.
Okay.
Which means that when we have earthquakes here, usually things just kind of sway, as opposed to going like, and then just breaks everything. So we're fine. I'm fine.
I've only been around an earthquake once.
Because see, that's the thing that usually only happens on the west side of the United States, and like in Japan, and just basically like this side of the hemisphere, or I guess over here for you guys because it's mirrored on the camera. But
one of those.
Yeah. But actually, I want Shawn to say something, because as somebody who doesn't really have a diversity thing, not that you don't have your own problems and tribulations and people misunderstanding you or anything like that, but usually you have the added benefit of being the default.
No, like, you're right. And that's the thing. Like, it's one of those things where I always feel like I'm almost at a disadvantage when talking about diversity, because I am what people would see America as, a stereotypical straight white male.
Mm-hmm.
And when people look at me or see that, of course they see a stereotype, just like when they see anybody else, they'll see a stereotype, and they automatically assume things from that.
Yeah.
And
we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not to say that a lot of the stuff isn't seated in truth. One of the hurtful stereotypes about white people is that we are very racist, and that we hold some of that racism into us. And yeah, there's a lot of us that are, but at the same time, a lot of us are trying to reverse that stigma, reverse that, and helping others reverse their stigmas and their stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of seeing it represented, I want to see more representation out there, because truth be told, we've had our time. I mean, the one I kind of think of is Duke Nukem, because if you think of big burly men that saves the woman at the end of the day, you think Duke Nukem is the peak of that masculinity. And when Duke Nukem Forever came out, among its myriad of problems was the fact that it came from a different time. It came from a time when
I remember that.
People will look at it and they say, yeah, give me that. Let me slap some titties around. I don't give a shit. But now people are looking at that like, we actually used to enjoy this? Like, this was a thing?
Yep.
And whenever you take a look at especially more niche genres, things like the walking simulators, adventure games, and things like that, that's where you're going to see a lot more diversity coming up and a lot more representation shown. One of the biggest examples of that, in my opinion, is Telltale's The Walking Dead series, where your first protagonist is an African American male trying to escape his past and everything, and from then on it is an African American female, which you don't really see as a protagonist going on. And that was a hit game. That was something that sold blockbusters in terms of the gaming space. And you are seeing it more with more AAA games. I know one of the newer games that came out was The Last of Us, where it was a mainline game from a first party publisher. People ate it up in droves, and it offered a same-sex protagonist in the form of Ellie. And whenever I look at something like that, I say, oh, that's cool, I like that.
Yeah.
And I move on. Instead of saying, what? No, that character is completely ruined. I can't go back and play this game because I saw her in this light. I cannot do it anymore. Away from this game. Just get away from me. I can't.
Right.
And
the common I can't. Well, what's the term that's commonly used? I can't.
Even.
No. They say that I can't associate with this character. Not associate. What's the word?
Some people say that.
Yeah.
I can identify with this character. That's what they say. They say stuff like, I can't identify with this character. I just didn't connect.
Yeah.
Because it was a woman. They're like, what?
The thing about it is, whereas I am going to go out and say, I don't identify, but I like this character. She's well written. She's a good character. I enjoyed her. And I put that in my store of good characters that I liked. You might find someone else playing this game, liking the game just fine. It's like, oh, that's me. I'm Ellie. I'm so glad that Naughty Dog thought of, someone like me whenever they made this character.
Right.
And, it's something that you don't really see all that often. Usually you'll see, their sexuality being flaunted out as something either erotic for the wrong reasons or
the entire personality of them.
Exactly.
That's all they are.
Exactly. It's like, who is Ellie? She's a lesbian. No, what is her person? No, she's a lesbian. That's it. That's all she is. Or you'll have someone in there as, CJ from Grand Theft Auto 4's, or San Andreas rather, is black. It's like, no, what is no, he's black. That's his character.
That's not a thing.
Exactly. And it's basically what you're doing is whenever you're doing something, you're saying, okay, we have this aspect of their character. Let's gather a bunch of stereotypes around, glue them all together, and that will make a good character. And that's not something that's good for gaming because you have a terrible character, terribly written character. And it's also not good for the community because you have a poor representation of what they are and what they represent. Right. Whereas you have a well-written character where, they may be this, but they have a personality along with it. And that makes them more fully fleshed out, makes people like this character, and above all else, gives people the reason to say, you know what? Kudos to you because you thought of my community.
Yep.
Sometimes when you have a particularly well-written character, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, straight, gay, man, woman.
Or a hedgehog.
I can identify with them regardless. There's been some female characters that I've identified with incredibly, even more so than some male characters, just because they were that well written. And it can also just kind of like transfer barriers because then you can be like, oh well, they're not that different, or sometimes they're completely different, but I can still see their point of view. It could have either effect.
Yeah.
And that's important to do that in video games, in all forms of media, because it just gives us all a better understanding of each other.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad thing. That's the biggest thing I want to put out. It's not a bad thing. It's only bad if they are poorly written to the point where they are doing a disservice. Like, I would rather have a nice, well-written, diverse cast of characters rather than a poorly written, diverse cast of stereotypes.
Right.
Basically.
Especially because a lot of us don't fit those stereotypes. I'm a Mexican.
No, I don't.
I'm a Mexican who's not a fan of Mexican food.
What?
Okay, to be fair, Americanized Mexican food is probably some of the worst food you could ever have.
I'm talking about like the food that my family makes.
That your mom made.
and stuff like that. Like they know how to make actual Mexican food. My mother was born in Mexico, so I'm technically first generation here. Although her sisters were born here, so it's like 1.5 or a half, depending on how you want to put it. But yeah, they know how to make like real Mexican food, and I'm like, I don't.
It does nothing for me. I want something
I like
different.
rice. I like rice. I like beans. That's it. I'm not really a big fan of burritos.
Okay.
Tacos, no. I mean, normal tacos is okay, but chicken tacos are too damn greasy. It doesn't do it for me. You know what my favorite food is? what my favorite food is?
What?
Cheeseburgers. I want a freaking cheeseburger all the time. America.
Awesome. America. Thank you, America.
So,
I'm a guy from the South that doesn't like biscuits and gravy. There
you go.
I love biscuits and gravy. I miss it.
Stand it, man.
I miss it so bad. I miss my grits. I miss my Carolina barbecue. Oh my gosh, you don't know how much I miss my Southern food. I really do.
Okay, sorry. You want to know what I hate worse than biscuits and gravy?
Whoa.
Grits. Get that.
Oh.
You hate grits?
I hate them. My God.
Oh, I love grits. I mean, grits.
I'll be with you with the barbecue. That's fine.
Uh-huh.
Granted, we have Nashville chicken, so that's really good and
Mm-hmm.
all that. But no, grits? No, get that out of here.
Oh, I miss my grits. Yeah. Anytime I hit an IHOP, I laugh when they say they don't have grits. I laugh in their face and be like, such a shame. That and Cracker Barrel, because they're supposed to be like the universal nationwide Southern food restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I keep telling my wife that Cracker Barrel is nowhere close to Southern food, but she seems to think that it is. But anytime you go to any place that's a Southern food place and it's not seasoned very well, then you know it's a very poor representation. It just, no.
I like Popeyes more than Kentucky Fried Chicken.
You're a good man. Kentucky Fried Chicken is...
Never been to Popeyes, so I can't verify that.
Yeah. Popeyes is kind of... It's odd. In the South, I had never seen a Popeyes until I got up here in the Northeast. Because Popeyes is wildly popular here in the Northeast.
Okay.
But back home, I'm like... I need a Bojangles and what was the other? Actually, a Hardee's. Bojangles and Hardee's were like the major restaurants where we got our fried chicken from. If it wasn't like a little, like a little Greek pit on the corner or something.
Yeah.
You get
right. Diversify your food palette, people.
Okay. Well, first off, over here in the West, Hardee's is Carl's Jr.
Yeah.
And secondly, they do not serve fried chicken.
They don't?
They have like these chicken tenders, but that's about it.
Yeah, they don't.
Hardee's? You have Hardee's there in Tennessee, right?
Just have the tenders. They don't have actual like fried chicken.
Really? Not there in Tennessee either?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Like, they don't have like pizza. No.
Yeah, because dude, in North Carolina, when Hardee's had chicken, their chicken was better than like everybody else's when it came out. And ever since then, any Hardee's I go to, their chicken is the bomb. Love it.
Speaking of like stereotypes and everything, I said I don't like Mexican food. You would think maybe I'm black or something because I love fried chicken.
I love it too. Stereotype confirmed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think we need to take a break.
Yeah, I need a break. I need to eat because
all this talk of food is getting to me.
Like starting to be the hungry podcast here.
Yeah, hey, if there's one thing about all races and all this stuff and all the diversity and everything that will bring us together, it will be food.
It sure will.
All right, we'll be right back. Hang on.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn it,
BJ. And then he freezes. Oh, no. I was like, did somebody else freeze? Who froze? I was sniffing.
No, we're live again.
We are?
Okay.
Yeah. They're actually watching me sniff my microphone right now? Really? Oh, okay. I guess I'll stop.
Yep. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like BJ over-sniffed it, and we had to overcompensate for that technical difficulties. But we are back talking about diversity, and while we talked about how much we love it, while we talked about some of the people that don't love it, the people who don't like diversity, and who want to see every game be with the same type of character that they seen because it wasn't what their granddaddy saw when they were over in Nam or
whatever.
They had the stupid poopy heads.
Honestly, I think a part of it is they just feel threatened by the fact that there's such a push for diversity that they feel like they're going to get left out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somehow, I don't understand how that dynamic is, but apparently they feel like because we talk so much about adding diversity and how important diversity is, that they're just going to be left out and that they aren't going to get a chance at whatever that is simply because there's going to be somebody that is a minority or a woman or something like that that's going to get the opportunity before them, when they obviously don't realize that they still have more of a chance to land whatever said job or opportunity than someone that's in a minority.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who I feel like, because of the way that this is just the way that things have been, that they're gonna feel like as a result of this they get less. Like there's this idea that there's less to go around for them as a result. And if you look at it as basic as you can, then technically they're right. Because roles that shouldn't have gone to certain people will now go to the proper people. So now they're not going to be getting that. Or a job that would have been filled by a white person will now be taken by a Asian person or whomever because they happen to be more qualified now, as opposed to like, well, I remember there was actually a Twitter thread that I remember reading a while ago that was like, well, this woman was completely qualified for this teaching position or some sort of a localization position in Japan, and she didn't get the position just because she was a woman. They just wanted a man. That was it. Even though the guy was like, well, you're gonna have to work. I have to work weekends. I don't want to work weekends. And she was like, I'm totally fine with that. And they ended up hiring him anyway. And they're like, well, do you speak English well? And I was like, I'm okay at it. And she was like, oh, I have all these credentials and everything. I can totally speak English just fine. Still went with him. Right.
Yep.
So in that regard, yes, you will not be able to get the roles and the jobs and the positions and certain things that you were not originally qualified for to begin with. And yes, you're not going to be able to get those. Those things are being taken away from you. But as a result, when you have more diversity in all aspects of culture, video games and movies and music and jobs and just like in your surrounding communities, you learn more, you learn to appreciate more, you become more seasoned and intelligent and empathetic especially, and it only benefits you as a person overall. The very shallow and very dumb ways that you used to get away with things before will completely be outweighed by the stuff that benefits you. Stuff like, especially when there's like stuff like feminism and everything, that only serves to benefit everybody, not just women. Yep. You as a male get to learn how to be more, again, empathetic and more responsive towards other person's needs as a result of stuff like that, because this also not just gets away of stereotypes from minorities, but also from the majorities. The idea of like men having to be more tough and to be the breadwinner of the household and all that kind. No, shut up with all that. That doesn't have to be true. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be the hero if you're a man, but that doesn't always mean that that's what your role is. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done with your tangent.
Well, all I'm getting at is whenever you have diversity and stuff, whether it be through gender diversity, race diversity, sexuality diversity, or just culture diversity in general, it only benefits everybody because everybody learns and grows as a result. And stereotypes that you feel you have to constantly perpetuate, all that kind of stress from that kind of stuff just falls away, and then you can just learn to be happy with yourself more.
Yeah. What I was going to get into, since we were talking about food earlier, I'm going to kind of come back to that a little bit.
You know what? I'm totally fine with that because I'm still really hungry.
So I cook chicken a lot. That's one thing I like to cook. So,
Me too.
Yeah. But, I mean, I do most of the, like, grilled chicken. You just, throw it in a pan, grill it up. But I'll tell you something. You don't put any seasoning on that chicken. You just throw it right in the pan, and that's it. That's not a good tasting chicken.
Yeah.
You don't get that. You gotta put some salt on there. You gotta put some pepper on there. You gotta put some oregano on there. Just some seasoning on that. But not just any seasoning. You can't just throw a bunch of you don't put cinnamon and cheese powder and whatever else. The only reason I say that is because in my apartment there's 2 salt and pepper shakers, but one of them has cinnamon sugar and the other one has cheese powder. And I put that on chicken one time. I'm like, this chicken tastes weird, man. This doesn't mesh well.
What is this?
Exactly. I was like, what? But still tastes better than just nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's on there. And whenever you don't have diversity on it, you're either getting nothing or you're just getting the only seasoning you have on there is salt. And if you have something like that, it's not going to taste good. You got to have a nice balance. You got to have a nice
blend,
understanding of how these seasonings taste and how they complement each other. And that's why diversity is so important. We, as a human species, the world is the chicken. The world is the chicken, and every other type of person, we're all seasonings. We're all something that make the world a better place. But you can't do it by salt alone. You can't do it by pepper alone. You can't do it by cheese powder alone. You gotta have a nice mixture of all of them.
Cheese powder.
And you know what? And then we're all different, so even the stuff that you feel doesn't go good on the chicken still might have a place.
Somebody will find a way to have a recipe to make it work.
Yeah.
Cinnamon sugar may not go good with that, but you might throw it together, get some good sweet thing in there, maybe make some type of savory French toast or something like that. They will work in some recipe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta know. That's why you have that understanding. You gotta know how much salt to put in there. Do you put a little? Do you put a lot? How much pepper you put in there? What types of dish you gotta put in with it? You gotta have a nice fundamental understanding of each seasoning.
Yeah.
Because you put that seasoning in the wrong place, or you think this just goes with everything, you're gonna be wrong there. And that's why I say everybody has their own type of seasoning. And yeah, you have, cinnamon, you have sugar, you have cinnamon sugar, you have any one of those that you can, take away from that. But as long as you know how each seasoning goes,
you can use it.
Exactly. You're going to have a wide range of dishes, and all of them are going to taste fantastic.
Even on chicken.
Yeah. So what would you rather have? Just a bland chicken with nothing on it, or endless possibilities of different flavored chicken that are both amazing to your taste buds?
Barbecue.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right there. Moral of the episode is eat more barbecue.
That's right. And Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah.
God damn it, I'm hungry.
Me too. We gotta wrap this up. I'm so hungry right now.
We talk about diversity in video games, and we ended up just talking about food, and somehow that actually does make sense.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, take us out. Take us home, Sean.
All right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Shaded Pixels podcast on diversity in food. You can always catch us every week right here on twitch.tv/
BJ, I can't hear Shawn.
Sorry.
Contain yourself. Now come back in. Come on. There we go. We want to see your pretty face. All right. Like I was saying, Shaded Pixels podcast, twitch.tv. You can catch us there Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can always catch the videos when they go live on Thursdays. You can catch them in video form at youtube.com/Shaded Pixels podcast. We also have an audio version now.
It's a bit.ly link.
It is a bit.ly link for the YouTube. You will find it because it is somewhere right over there. It's there. It's that way, right?
bit.ly/Shaded Pixel podcast.
Yeah. You'll find it. You'll find it, you guys. You'll find out where we're at. And like I said, we even have an audio version now. So you can catch us at podcast.com. Just look for Shaded Pixels podcast. You'll be able to download those episodes and listen to them on your commute to work.
I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna stop you right there. Something happened to your mic, Shawn.
Yeah, I did. Hold up.
It's a little hard to hear you. Just a little.
You should have sniffed it.
Nope. Now we can't hear you at all.
Yeah, now you completely destroyed your microphone.
Nah.
There we go. There
it goes. Fixation.
All right. So, just to recap everything else.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv, Shaded Pixels podcast.
Yeah.
Tuesday at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. YouTube. It's at the bit.ly link. Catch us Thursdays, same time, podcast.com. Search for us there. Same time on Thursdays where you'll catch the audio version. You can always find us at our personal Twitter and YouTube links. Esteban, what you got going on?
Okay. I have no freaking idea. I'm having some trouble with my streaming stuff because certain games that I want to stream are not working. So I have to figure that out. But once I do get it working, I will be streaming on my channel, which is twitch.tv/HeyColorWin. On my YouTube, still got Let's Plays going up. I'm just focusing on Alice Madness Returns. I'm more than halfway through that game now, so just keep trudging along until we get to the end. That videos of those, that playthrough goes up on Mondays and Thursdays at noon at youtube.com/ColorWin. And other than that, you can just follow me on my WordPress blog. I got more stuff going up there. I don't have anything scheduled so far other than I'm gonna try to bring my gaming landscape series back to weekly, and that'll probably go up on Fridays, so we'll see about that. It's Fridays or Saturdays, so look for that at heycolorwin.wordpress.com. And other than that, all the socials is at heycolorwin.
All right, sounds perfect, my friend. BJ, the microphone sniffing legend, what you got for us?
Thank God for school because it is now back in session. So hopefully my household can get back to normalcy and I can actually get back to a regular streaming schedule. As we all know, Madden drops the new season of all of the new releases for, the coming season. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get into a groove and start streaming some new stuff, rather than, catching up on everything like I have been for the past few months. I'm hoping that I can get a bit of, I've started the Tom Clancy's, Ghost Recon. I forget what Ghost Recon Wildlands. Yeah, Wildland. Yeah. I started playing that. I'm playing very poorly. So a part of me doesn't want to stream it because I'm not playing it very well, but I might stream it anyway. And in another, I think, couple of weeks or so, I think NBA 2K will be out. So I'll definitely be on the grind when that drops. So Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get in some streaming pretty soon. I usually do it on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. So keep your eyes open for that. And probably the best way to do that for all three of us, of course, is to subscribe to our channels and hit those notifications so that anytime we start streaming, it pops up for you. So go do that, ladies and gentlemen. Follow all three of us on our channels and everything, and you'll be able to get some extra goodness, especially, when you just have that hankering to see me sniff a microphone.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow me on Twitter at Little Big Ham. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Little Big Ham as well. YouTube.com/Shonton Studios. Right now, I don't have any plans for anything going up because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to Dragon Con this weekend. And
envious.
Party starts tomorrow, baby. It is just a 1 week vacation for me. So
beautiful.
You know what? If you want to see my escapades, if you want to see what goodness I have in store, you can always check my Twitter. It's right there. It is right below, ladies and gentlemen. And you can find me there. And of course, make sure you subscribe to us on Twitter and make sure you find us at Shaded Pixels for the Shaded Pixels podcast. Until next time, everyone, stay shady and pixelated.